Welsh club rugby has sometimes felt like Lord of the Flies, with everyone looking after their own self-interest. But this week, it turned straight up into the Hunger Games, as the two West Wales teams, who up until this point have presented a united front against the Union, both fractured and now are putting their own cases forward in an attempt to survive as this restructure of Welsh rugby comes into place. Started this week with the Ospreys, who were putting in their planning permission to Swansea Council for the redevelopment of St Helens. Now, this was going to be the meeting that decides if they go ahead with the plans and where the funding was going to come from and stuff like that. And at the last minute, some letters came in to sort of protest this from some MPs who were saying this was going to be a waste of taxpayers' money, not sustainable to be doing all this extra work when there is already a purpose-built rugby stadium a few miles down the road, internetly ready to go, given the uncertainty of where Welsh rugby was going to be. But where it gets even more interesting is there was another letter basically following the same points that the MPs had said, but this was from Crease 16, which is a Scarlets fan group. Now, MPs are well within their rights to come and say out and give their opinion, because that's basically their job. But I think the fact that Crease came out and done this was a little bit naughty, and it caused a lot of arguing then over social media, where the Ospreys fans were annoyed at the Scarlets fans for coming out and opposing this, when really it's nothing to do with them. They should be worrying about their own house. Interestingly then, when you dug a little bit deeper, it was realised that Crease did not go to their membership and ask them if they wanted to do this. That basically the governing members of Crease decided that they were going to put this letter off their own back without consulting their membership. They said the reason they did this is because everything was time sensitive, they had to get it in, but they knew this meeting was going to be going ahead for weeks in advance, so they could have easily done this. What I've read online, almost all of the Scarlet supporters have said, we don't hold this view, we want St Helens to go ahead, we want everyone to still survive. So I think it's important, because it's put a bit of a divide amongst the Ospreys and the Scarlets, when really it was just a few people who, you know, they were looking after the best interests of their club, but probably put this forward in the wrong way. Then, massive news then came out later on in the week that Scarlets were actually going to be receiving massive financial influx from an American company. So the statement reads, quote, "The Scarlets board is delighted to confirm the club has entered into agreement for a new strategic partnership with House of Luxury LLC, an international luxury asset agency with a growing presence in global sport. Under the terms of the proposal, HOL's dedicated sports and entertainment investment division intends to acquire the majority stake in Scarlets and will assume non-rugby operational leadership and partnership with the current board, and guided by the club's unique legacy and heritage. House of Luxury is a US global luxury asset agency behind landmark sales in ultra-prime real estate, sports, automotive and rare collectibles, with dedicated sports and entertainment division, and has confirmed it is intended to acquire a 55% stake in the Scarlets, so a controlling stake. HOL leading off-field operations and management effective immediately. And so initially they're taking a percentage, I think it was around the 20 to 30% mark, with an idea to grow that, but the idea was they take a controlling stake in the club. Statement's huge, so I'm not going to go through it all. Then more interesting stuff came out in this then. Former WRU CEO head David Moffett will be in charge of the entertainment division and brings extensive rugby leadership experience, and will be supported by world-class team of directors. Two people, I have to admit, I don't know who they were, but the third people, Wales ex-international Dan Biggar. This one blew my mind. Dan Biggar is basically going to be part of a consortium or a group that is taking over the Scarlets. You know, this probably is a real slap in the face for the Ospreys fans. I'm not going to talk bad about Dan Biggar. I absolutely love him, and I think he's amazing. But this one was a bit of a surprise to me. You know, Dan Biggar, born on the Gower Peninsula, played most of his career Ospreys legend, and now he's going to be part of the Scarlet setup. Very strange to me. Apologies, first of all, because that was a lot of reading, and my reading's not the best. So then this was like really interesting, because this kind of throws a massive spanner in the works as to who the WRU are going to cut now, because there's a new bunch of people who are going to be funding the Scarlets. My head immediately flash to Cardiff and Helford Capital. If it's too good to be true, it usually is. But this seems a lot different, whereas Helford Capital was a group of individuals with backers. This is a asset management company, so it gives it a bit more gravitas that they're taking this over, and they'll be able to do it properly. Apparently the WRU are happy with this. I don't know what that means. I'm not sure where this leaves everyone, but this is like a massive bomb into Welsh rugby, given the whole financial structuring and where things are going. WRU still silent on it, and no one's really come out and said anything. Which is not good, because this is what's leading to the Ospreys and the Scarlets butting heads now, because everyone's looking out for their own self-interest, which is understandable because nobody wants their club to go. But the Scarlets have just put a massive foot forward and a big trump card in their pocket to say, we're the most viable thing to move forward with now. We've got this big investment group, we've got the stadium, we're ready to move forward and be more sustainable as stuff goes forward. So what's going to happen if the WRU decide, no, we're going to go with the Ospreys? What happens to the Scarlets then in this group? Do they just go off and do their own thing? I don't know. It's really confusing, but it's a massive thing in Welsh rugby. So I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Let me know what you think in the comments. Sorry about my terrible reading of all the quotes, but it was important to get out everything they said. So I'll leave it with you, and I'll catch you on the next one.